Hello and welcome, Chiro Thought Leaders, to another episode of the Ask Dr. Zaino show. Thank you so much for being on here. I can see we've already got dozens of chiropractors on and dozens flowing in as we speak. As always, I want to orientate you to what we're looking at. If you're watching from chirothoughtleaders.com/ask-dr-Zaino, that's where we're here live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central. And if you're watching that video, you'll notice right below that video, you'll see our social media links. Please click them, like them, Google+, tweet, share, pin it. All of those buttons are there, and we appreciate you sharing those with your colleagues. And below that, even more importantly tonight, is the live chat. And that's where you're going to be able to interact. You're going to be able to comment. You're going to be able to ask questions. And I highly recommend that you just type in right now where you're listening from and your name, and that way we can get to know you, and we encourage you to ask those questions. I'm going to be monitoring that live tonight as we go, and we have a very, very special show for you tonight. I'm super excited. Dr. Jeff Spenser is with us. He's a former U.S. Olympic sprint cyclist and team doctor on 7 Tour de France champion teams, and he's created the Champions Blueprint workshop. It's a series that he's doing that I'm super excited to learn more about and maybe attending actually in the near future. And so he's just about taking yourself, your practice, and what you do to that next level. And I want to introduce him and go ahead and Dr. Spenser, if you will. I know most people probably have heard of you and have seen you. You're a big name in chiropractic, whether you know it or like it or not, you are. And I appreciate all the great things that you're doing for chiropractic. But if you will, introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about what you're doing.
Sure. Well, in just a kind of a short course here, I am a chiropractor, but that came a little bit later in life. I was a kid that just wanted to be an Olympian. Thought that'd be the coolest thing ever. That was my first ambition. And so I learned some very early lessons. And first off, last time I saw my dad when I was 13, and that was when I won my first cycling championship. And he was an artistic genius, and I learned then and there that no amount of will and no amount of talent, your technology and your technique isn't going to save you. If you don't have a basic something, and if you don't have a basic structure for living life, then there's no way that you can make it up and get to wherever you want to go. And so as a result of that, I did become an Olympian because of the help that I got from my mentors. And I did and was able to attend a prestigious university, University of Southern California, where I got my master's degree in sports science as a result of the principles that I learned from my mentors about how do you get to the top and how do you stay there. And it's not an accident. Performing at the top and staying there, 2 parts to that. One part's to get there, the other part's to stay there. It's a very deliberate outcome of very specific actions that are consistently applied. And so as a result of my becoming an Olympian and being and having a master's degree in sports science, a lot of people were very interested in becoming their own champions in sport, in life, in business, and practice, etc. And so they came to me to get the roadmap to know how to do that. And a lot of people asked me about health and injury prevention and management. So I decided, well, why not go back to chiropractic college? Because as an Olympian, I didn't get very good health care. And I know that that's a dimension that people need, whether it's in the boardroom or the locker room. If you don't have the health to show up each and every day, and you can't push and you can't sustain the effort over the long haul, then don't plan on having a very good life. And so with my knowledge of what it takes to get to the top as an Olympian, and as a result of my master's degree in sports science and understanding what it takes to create a body that can push and has staying power, and my knowledge of the body to get and stay well. And I really cracked the code on how does one actually become their own full potential player, in what is the structure by which we can predictably achieve our biggest goals on the first try. And so what I've done with that, I've developed a program called the Champions Blueprint that, first and foremost, it really teaches us how to achieve our biggest goals on the first try. And I can tell you this, is that most of the models out there about goal achievement can't really deliver on the promise because they're not thorough enough and they're not nuanced enough to be able to craft a sensible process that's well-paced to be able to go through the processes that are necessary to do that. And that's what my life is devoted to, like right now. I practiced for over 25 years. I was International Sports Chiropractor of the Year in 2004. I've helped over 40 plus athletes become World Olympic National Tour de France champions. So I kind of got, the chiropractic side down. I love it. I'm a big proponent of our profession, big fan of it. It's been great to me. I think that it's essential for everyone. That right now my calling is to help doctors move to their next level, not by better thinking, but by, do you really have the skills, and do you know what to do to be able to get from where you are to where you want to go? And that's my passion right now.
I think a lot of these chiropractic thought leaders, these followers and people who are on right now are like me. And when I hear, that somebody has a blueprint and has done it, and maybe a step-by-step pathway to that level of success, my ears perk up. I think that's what we want as chiropractors. And I was a team chiropractor for the West Texas A&M Buffaloes, a football team, and they had a lot less injuries that year, the 2 years that I was able to do that. But it's like that was part of what helped me feel like I was achieving that level of success, and to hear, and I know we're actually going to go into some of that blueprint and to help some of us on the line and our listeners be able to start implementing that so we can achieve that level of success in our own minds and in our own careers. First, let's go, if you have a website or actually a link that we can share with everybody so they don't have to wait. I know you have some seminars coming up, and how can we find out more about that first?
Thanks. Yeah. So the website is www.drjeffspencer.com, drjeffspencer.com. And to find out more information about the workshop, it will be www.drjeffspencer.com/workshop. And I've got 3 workshops left this year. The next one's going to be next weekend, which is going to be July 16th and the 17th. And then there are 2 others. And the one thing that I do want to say about this is that for those people that are interested in registering, please use the code FRIEND, FRIEND, because that gives like a 60% financial consideration to tuition. But this is for chiropractors only and listeners of your show. So please make sure you use the promotional code FRIEND. So that's the best way to get a hold of me and the program itself.
Okay, awesome. Let's see. I actually I will type in the correct link and make sure that it's in the chat below. And I did type in a link. It looks like it was the wrong link. So Ryan, actually, if you're listening, I know you're there. If you'll type in the correct link for everybody, I appreciate that. And I know that you said that you had shared some training, some actual training with us. And I know that your events, your workshops are unlike any other workshops, where you're really interactive, you're really growing, you're really helping these people one-on-one to take that next step and that next level. But for us, listening right now, wanting to be able to achieve that, and when you're in the day-to-day grind, how those big goals kind of get lost, or we kind of, we still have those goals, but we're not just dead set on achieving them every day. How do we do that? What's the structure look like to achieve something like that?
Such a great question. Well, first off, the champion's golden rule is, those prolific performers in business, sport, healthcare, etc. The golden rule is do the homework and the test is easy. And I found that to be infallible. So to do the homework is to make sure that you're responsibly prepared to be able to achieve your goal. And quite honestly, most people are not prepared. Most people just start and they just think that they can make it up. So what happens if you're not prepared, then just prepare to stall. And what's tragic about that is that if you're not prepared, and in the Champion's Blueprint, there are 5 very specific steps that we go through to make sure that before you start, that you're properly prepared to begin the process of moving towards your goal. Because you don't want to do that. If you're not ready, don't start.
Right.
Because you risk all, you risk forfeiting all your time, effort, and resources put into it. And it's tragic because it may be a great plan, it may be a good goal, but if it's not properly prepared for, I've seen a lot of people waste a lot of time and effort and resources unnecessarily stalling because they weren't properly prepared. So number 1, preparation. Once you are properly prepared, then you can actively start pursuing your goal, where you go boots on the ground and you do the action steps necessary to progressively gain momentum to systematically go through a series of successive, predetermined achievements that in sum total allow you to progressively achieve your goal on the first try. I don't like this coming back for a second or third try after second or third failed attempts. You know, my whole goal is let's be prepared, let's achieve it the first time. The champions have already showed us what to do, so why don't we take a look at what history has showed us that we need to do to be a serial peak performer. And that's what basically the program's all about. There are 10 different steps. There are 10 steps in the preparation division, Division 1. There are 5 steps in Division number 2, which is the performance division to be able to achieve those goals.
Nice. So I want to encourage. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I was just going to say is that it's not an accident. You know, it's a very, very specific formula. It's not about thinking better. It's not about more mantras. It's not about visualization. You cannot visualize yourself to go to a place that you don't have the skills to get to. And so the key to this is, number one, where am I in my process? And if we can locate which step you're in and say you are here, it's like having a treasure map where we can locate where the treasure is, the goal, but we can also locate where the hazards are that'll take you out of the game. And if we can locate where you are, then we know exactly what to do to move forward towards the treasure, not off the cliff. So first off, we've got to know exactly where you are.
Well, let me ask you this. And do you ever find that some of the people that you coach, maybe they have trouble deciding what goal to set?
Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, that's easy, because in step number 1 and 2, there's actually 3 steps that we look at that. Step number 1 is the goal. And we have to look at the goal. You know, what sort of a goal is this? What level of difficulty? And are we going to do this one time, or are we going to do this multi times? You know, and so we have to determine that. Then the second thing we need to determine in step number 2 is, what's our motive? You know, why are we pursuing this goal? And if it's an honorable reason to pursue the goal, like I'm pursuing this goal to honor my talents, or I'm doing this goal to provide for my family, well, then you have the certainty to be able to stay in the game long enough to achieve it. And then number 3, which would be step number 3, is impact. What's the impact of my goal? You know, what's the impact on myself? What's the impact on my family, my friends, on the physical universe, on the world at large? And if the answer to that is in the affirmative, like calling people to a higher game, then that tells you that it's exactly the right goal to pursue. And if you cannot answer those 3 steps in the affirmative, then it's not a goal we're pursuing, because there's no way that you're going to have the personal conviction to do the processes necessary to be able to achieve it.
Well, I think that's important, and I think that's why people need a coach as well, because we don't think about those steps. You know, I mean, we might write down that I want to see 500 visits a week, but you don't know why. You don't know, you know, and no wonder we don't achieve it if we don't have that, you know, that reason behind, or there's no motivation to actually get there. So now one question I have, and I want to go ahead and encourage the listeners right now to go ahead and post questions on goals. I know that everyone out there has set goals and has goals in your clinic and outside your clinic. And so let's get some questions for Dr. Spenser here. And I'm going to go ahead and ask mine. You know, I have some goals that I've set for my office, but I don't know that I've actually went that deep in determining, you know, why did I set this goal, and then what's my motivation behind this goal. But once I do figure that out, and we have that set, what's the next step?
Well, the next step is to make sure that you have the resources to responsibly begin pursuing your goal. Do you have the time? Do you have the space? Do you have the team? Do you have the staff? Do you have the financing? Do you have the equipment? And that's got to be vetted. There has to be a very thorough checklist that you go through. And ideally, you would go through that with somebody who's been through the process before you to accurately determine what the needs are. And then once you've assembled and acquired the materials and the personal skills and the knowledge, to be able to vet that, to make sure that you have that before you actually start. You know, no guesswork. You know, guesswork is not what the professional high performers do. They're extremely responsible in their process. And so without really understanding your motive, without understanding the impact that your goal is going to have, without having the mindset, which is absolutely critical. You must have the mindset to be able to have the courage to show up and pursue your goal. And without having adequate resources, I would suggest that you don't consider starting pursuing your goal, because you're not prepared to do that. And when I talk about mindset, I'm talking not about positive thinking. I'm not talking about affirmations and visualizations. I'm talking about, do you really understand what the challenges are that you're going to face in the process of achieving your goal?
Mm.
Do you really understand what that is? And do you have the mindset to encounter it? And do you understand the forces within you, the struggle between that part of yourself that really wants to succeed, that champion nature, and do you understand the battle that it fights with that other side of it that's fear-based and wants to talk us out of everything good, and realize that that's going to be a constant battle.
Right.
So, you know, again, this is a reality check on what it really takes. This is not just, again, sort of thinking nice and trusting the universe. This is not kid stuff.
Right.
You know, this is born out of what history tells us all the prolific performers do in any discipline do to get to the top and manifest their goals on the first try.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the hard part with goals, is that we don't achieve them overnight. So then it gets, you go through these cycles of disappointment that, some people don't have the strength to fight through, or you might get this overwhelming feeling like you want to quit. But that's just a bad day. And then you have those good days that maybe, keep you pushing forward. Have you noticed that as well?
Well, I think the issue here is that the classic model that we use to achieve goals is not adequate for more complex goals. For example, usually the gap model is what I call it, meaning that you have a big goal and you have a plan and you work really hard. And if you work hard enough and want it bad enough, you're going to close the gap between where you are and where you want to go. And it does seem really fair, and it does seem like that should deliver, but it very rarely delivers, particularly at the higher level, because it doesn't account for the level of readiness that you need to responsibly pursue your goal, and it doesn't locate where you are in the process of goal achievement. Because if I could take you and I could say, well, this is where you are on your path to goal achievement, and we could name it, and I could tell you what to expect in terms of the challenges and what you need to do to overcome the challenges and what objectives need to be met, then you would be not taken by surprise by anything, because you would know what's coming. You would know the good stuff and the opportunities. You would also know historically what the risks are being where you are, so you're aware of that and know how to avoid the pothole that's a preventable problem. It doesn't have to happen. And so that's really what my model does. You come to the workshop and you bring your goal to the workshop, and we take your goal and we put it into the blueprint, and we evaluate your readiness to pursue the goal. And if you have not properly prepared, then we look at what you need to go back and pick up to kind of fill that little vacuum so it doesn't hurt you later. And if we can define exactly where you are and which of the 10 steps, then we can say, well, okay, so you're here. So this is what this means. This is what you need to be ready for. These are the objectives you need to meet. These are the frictions that you will encounter, and these are the things that you need to do to get rid of the friction. And so it's not guesswork, but most people don't and have never seen this model, so they remain confused. And so what they're left with is just either trying harder or saying their mantras with greater diligence, but that's not the solution. And that's okay if you want to take the trash out or do simple goals, but for some of these more lofty, complex goals, there needs to be a more sophisticated system that, again, empowers us to know what's coming, so we're not taken by surprise by either the good or the bad. So anytime I hear a person saying, well, I'm uncertain, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm afraid of what's coming, it's telling me that the model that they're looking through the goal at is inadequate.
Right. Now, do you just recommend that, obviously you deal with a lot of chiropractors and they set goals in their business, but do you recommend we set other goals as well, as far as life goals, health goals, relationship goals, and how do we go about doing something like that?
It's exactly the same. The goal achievement process is exactly the same for any goal that you have. But the vetting of this is important, because if you want to be a successful chiropractor, then part of what you have to do in your preparation is to make sure that you have your relationship squared away. You need to make sure that you have adequate health to appropriately pursue your ambitions. So those are all things that we flush out in the workshop, so there's no guesswork about what your personalized strengths and weaknesses are. And so we make contingencies for the things that need to be bolstered, and the things that are strong, we know how to complement those with other levels of fortification to kind of widen the breadth of your ability to achieve your bigger goals on the first try.
So let's say, let's make it real practical for the people watching. And you know, let's say that, you know, I may have a list of goals, but number one, or at least in the top 5 of my goals, is to actually hit to own a practice that sees 500 patient visits a week, right? Like, I've been working at that, and that's just something that we want to do so bad. And then where do you start with me, you know, as far as maybe even going back to where you said, you know, the why behind it, but what do you do if I tell you that and I'm coming to you for help?
Well, the first thing that I would do is, if your practice is already up and running, you're already in Division 2 performance. So I would need to locate what step you are in performance. That would tell me what the challenges you're going to face are, and are you aware of them? And do you have contingencies to address them so you don't step off the cliff? And do you understand what we have to do to prevent those from occurring? I hate preventable problems, by the way. And do we have the structure in place to carry your momentum forward? What are the objectives that have got to be met? And so once I do that, then I look back. Okay, so let's say you're in step number 6, and I look back at step 1 through 5. What have you not done in your preparation in step 1 through 5 that has to be addressed now, that may hurt you significantly later when you encounter a certain set of circumstances? And I see this all the time. You know, you see it in practice. What's the famous thing that patients say? Well, it hasn't hurt me so far. I'll call you when I need you, right? And well, you should have called me 10 years ago because you're an injury ready to happen. Well, that's the way I look at practices. It's like, okay, well, it hasn't hurt you so far, but if we look back and you're in step 6, and we look back at the previous 5 steps, and we see that there are 3 or 4 things that haven't been done that are fundamental to have the capacity to be able to move forward. And you're asymptomatic. Let's make sure that we don't believe in the illusion that everything's okay just because you don't see it. That's a classic deal. So that's what we would do in your case, to make sure that there are no weaknesses in your program that can hurt you later, that allow us to move ahead. Plus, we have the advantage, if you're in step 4 and we know what step 5 is because it's progressive, that we can actually peek around the corner and we know what's coming, so you're not going to be taken by surprise. You know, most people are on survival. It's like, man, I got through another day, I got through another week, I got through another month. I don't know how I did it, but I got through it. I don't know what's coming, but I got a plan in front of me, and as long as I work hard, I'm going to get to 500 patients per week. You know, for me, that's kind of like guessing in a certain sense. And I think it really sets us up for premature failure. And unfortunately, a lot of those things that lead to that are 100% preventable. So I'm a big fan. Let's get proactive on this, you know?
Well, one of the things I love about what you do, Jeff, is you make the goal real, and you make it, you know, so many people, they write a goal down and we forget about it. And there's these, you know, what is it? The secret, the affirmation, you know, all these things are like, if you just write it down, it'll happen type of a, you know, type of a thing. And that doesn't work. I mean, you have to actually put the action behind it. Not only the action behind it, but I love how you go so much deeper into building this system around that goal to make sure that you're getting there as fast as you can, efficiently and effectively, and you're not damaging yourself in any other way while you're achieving this goal. You know what I mean?
I do, and that's why for me, I like to look at the path to our bigger future like a map on the wall, right? We've all seen the world map, right? So let's take a thumbtack and imagine that's you. When we walk over to the map on the wall, we take a thumbtack and we say, you're here. So if we could put the thumbtack on the wall that represents where you are in your path to your bigger future, and we can name it, then we know what to do. We know what to expect, both good and bad. We know what objectives need to be met to gain acceleration to move forward. So now we have confidence. Our anxiety drops. We're a better leader because now our team trusts us because we're not anxiety ridden. We're not frantic. We bring a calm strength because we know where we are and we know where we're headed. And if we know where we're headed, we can reassure the team. We can make good judgments about what we need to do and how we need to invest in our future. And so like in the Champion Blueprint model, if we can name where you are, which we can. Anybody that comes to the workshop, we're going to know exactly where you are. We're going to know exactly what to do to gain momentum to move forward. We're going to know exactly the problems that you should anticipate so there are no surprises. You're going to know how to identify them. You're going to know how to circumvent them. You're going to know how to grab the brass ring, and you're going to also know what's coming. That's the only way I know to play the game, you know. And I've used this model to help people win gold medals in the Olympics. I've helped the thought leaders move to the next level. I've helped business people make millions of dollars, all based on, you know, the blueprint model. I don't like guessing with your future. I don't like that.
No, I love it. I love how you systematized it. That's really what achievement is all about, is creating the structure and the system around it and then being able to do it consistently. You know, I just want to remind everyone that if you want to find out more about Dr. Jeff Spenser's workshop coming up, if you're serious about your goals and you're serious about achieving goals and learning how to achieve goals, you want to go to www.drjeffspenser.com/workshop. You can actually look, if you're watching live from our Ask Dr. Zaino live show, you'll actually just scroll down to the live chat and you'll see some links that were posted there that will take you right to that page. I also want, Dr. Spenser, I want to share with you a question that we have here from Ryan. It says, do you make time each morning to write your goals or your mini goals for that day? How do you set the vision? What does some of your affirmations sound like if you use them to put yourself in a state when you rewrite those goals? Excuse me, I can't talk tonight. What are your take on those types of things?
Well, you know, first and foremost, I actually have another program that's called the Champions Daily Schedule, which shows us how to organize our day to get the most value out of the day so that we can get 4 times the normal productivity for about half the energy. I've kind of cracked the code on that. So that's another Champion Blueprint side to what I do. But it's like, you know, each day there are a series of things that need to get done. But the secret to this is at the end of the previous day, I have a list, and I have a list of things that I got done that I never need to look at again. They're gone. And then I have a list of things that need to get done, and I know exactly what I need to do to carry momentum forward. And then I have a third list of things that have advanced so far, but now they're a little bit stuck and I don't know quite what to do with them. So I don't worry about those. I organize my day on the things that I know exactly what I need to do next to be able to carry the momentum forward. And so the affirmations that I do are, first off, when I get up in the morning, first thing is that I kind of look in my mental inbox to see what problems got solved when I was sleeping, because a lot of times that's where I'm gifted with my best revelations. I had one this morning. It was a key breakthrough for me. And so rather than try to get up too fast, I took a pause and I looked in my consciousness and I saw that there was an answer to a problem. The next thing I do, which I think is critical, is that I always look at my schedule the night before so there are no surprises about what I will be encountering the next day. And so that allows me to get to sleep and stay asleep because I don't worry about stuff. And then before I go to work, I look at a photograph as a reminder, why am I doing this? Show you the photo right here. Here's right here. This is it right there. That's what I look at. It's a picture of my wife and my adopted daughter here. And I look at this at 8 o'clock every morning before I take my first phone call, which may be 6 a.m. for a client back east. And I look at this as a reminder of why I'm doing what I'm doing. It gives me purpose. It gives me a reason bigger than myself to show up and get the job done, you know?
I love it.
And then the next thing I do is that I ask myself, how am I going to show up today? You know? And I want to make sure that that's a conscious conversation I have with myself. Am I going to, this is the way I show up. I make a conscious decision every day by asking myself that question. And my answer is, I'm going to show up and I'm going to give people the highest value that I can give them because they deserve that. And whatever I'm facing it personally with myself, that's my business. It should have nothing to do with my interaction with them. They deserve, and my obligation is to give them the best that I've got, day in and day out. And I will never make anybody pay for the challenges that I have to face in my own personal life. I will never do that. But I have to consciously remind myself of what that is and what that looks like. And so for those people that come to the Champions Blueprint, in step number 3, mindset, we go through the human versus the champion's nature chart, where we look at the difference between our champion nature that wants to make a difference and wants to fight for justice and wants to fight for meaning and purpose and contribution, versus that other side of ourself that's our fear-based survival mechanism, wants to talk us out of everything good. And this is something that everybody needs to understand. It's how I helped a guy win a gold medal in 2012 Olympics in London, is that I showed him the chart, we went through it, and I made him look at it every morning as a reminder of what the day's opportunity is and how he has to show up and how he has to make decisions to advance his path towards scoring his own victory that particular day. That's a feature that I go through in depth in the Champion Blueprint workshop. And so I hope I'm a practical guy. I'm like, let's get the job done. Let's decide how we're going to do it. Let's show leadership. Let's do this to honor the privilege. Let's make a statement about what's possible. Let's be a beacon of hope and sanity to other people that creating a life of passion, purpose, and change is actually possible. That's what my driver is.
I love it, man. And it's you've had such beautiful experiences in your life that you've learned some amazing wisdom, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. And the 30 minutes flies by in this show and every week. But in closing, if you will, share with us about the workshop. Where is it? What is it? When is it? And what would you tell everybody out there who was thinking they might want to go and learn this from you?
Well, thank you. Well, the next workshop is next weekend. It's July 16th and 17th. It's in Pasadena, California, outside of LA. And it's limited to 20 people because that gives us the level of intimacy required to do the workshop with the level of intimacy at the level of conversation and the altitude and value that's necessary to have the quality experience that I want people to have. We work very aggressively in it. It is a workshop. It's not just me getting up with a dialogue and a monologue, but I go through each of the 10 steps of the Champion Blueprint Goal Achievement Model in explicit detail. We workshop. I give very tangible examples of how it is that we develop the capacity for each of the steps and the sum total of what's required to become a prolific performer in our discipline. There are handouts, there are very concise notes that follow precisely what the conversation is. But, most importantly, it's a chance to fellowship with people that perform at a high level and share the same values that we have. And it's extremely important that we find ourselves in the presence of people that serve as a reminder to us of our core roots as a profession, but also as the quality of manifestor that each and every one of us can become. So this is a seminar for those people that really want to understand how to achieve their biggest goals on the first try. This is not kid stuff. If people want to understand better mantras and affirmations and shortcuts, there are no shortcuts. They're not real. The only thing that's real is a proven method. Yeah. And this is what I'm sharing with people. It's the 10 steps that history has proven that every prolific performer in any discipline has gone through to create a life of distinction, live a life and a lifestyle that they're capable of, and to lead a life of contribution, and also to create a massive high impact legacy. And so that's what this is all about. And so for that person that has that level of resonance, what I will say is that there's nothing more important than understanding the roadmap that's necessary to go from where we are to where we can go. And for those people interested, please take the time to seriously investigate this.
Awesome. Well, on behalf of all the chiropractic thought leaders out there, I appreciate you being on here. I know all of us listening, it's the reason why we get on here every Wednesday night is to be able to achieve those goals, to be able to be more successful and take that to the next level. And that's your expertise. So what an amazing time having you on here. Thank you so much again, and thank you all for listening tonight. Any parting words as we go?
Yeah. I'll just say this: is that success is never an accident.
Yeah.
Success is the outcome of very specific actions that are consistently applied. And I've cracked the code on that because my whole life has been, buried in the lives of helping people become prolific performers at the highest level, whether it's sport, whether it's in practice. I've been successful in everything that I've done, at least in 5 or 6 distinct disciplines. And all I'll say is that if there's ever a time in human history where we need beacons of hope and sanity and courage in our communities and leaders, it's now.
Amen.
But you can only lead from the front. You can't lead from behind. And without a structure that shows you where you are and where you're headed and what the dangers and the opportunities are, then you're pretty much guessing at life. And to me, every moment is too precious to guess at. I think that, personally, we need a proven roadmap that shows us what our choices are that we can step into with confidence and certainty. So with that being said, there's always room at the top for the best.
Amen. I couldn't agree more. And, it's an honor to have you on the show tonight. I look forward to working with you more personally, actually, in the future. And just want to thank everybody for being on here. And have a great night. We'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Again, let me close, actually, by telling them the website again. It's drjeffspenser.com/workshop. Go check that out. And there's multiple dates, but there's one coming up very soon. So get your tickets right now. All right. Thanks, guys. Good night.
You got it.